have always been very vocal that targeted tariffs I can support,
Sure.
100%, because you have not only do you have the population, but you have the infrastructure and you have the manufacturing capacity to do right off the bat with targeted tariffs, and that's why they've been implemented, by multiple presidents throughout time, and it protects that particular manufacturing industry in the United States. But when you're talking about blanket tariffs and you're talking about a much wider picture, uh, there's multiple things, and Brian, we talked about this. There's multiple things that you got to put into consideration. One, you got to put into consideration how many open jobs right now do we have in the United States when roughly around 4% unemployment rating is considered full employment. Right now we're at 4.2. So let's scratch that off. We're at full employment. Then you got 7.7 million jobs that are open. 636,000 of those are in special sector. So that means right now we already need an influx of population or immigration to cover those particular jobs. Now, if you're talking immigration, you're talking deportation, then you're talking, let's just say that that Donald Trump's administration actually deports the same amount of people that Biden did in his 4 years, which is roughly about 4.8 million. So right there, you're already looking at about 13 million people that are needed right now to just handle the job functions that we currently have. Now, if you go into these blanket tariffs that are wide open, one thing that you have to put into consideration is that only 10% of the U.S. goods sold in the U.S. are actually made in the U.S. Only 10%. That's it. So that means 90% of our goods are either components or other goods that are being imported from other countries. We're 25% of we basically consume 25% of the world's resources with only 4% of the world's population. So there's multiple factors that you have to put into key here that at this particular moment and for the seeable future, there's no way mathematically that infrastructure wise, manufacturing wise, job wise, that we could even muster up even close to what would be needed to even just handle the smallest amount of influx as far as manufacturing jobs. Because what people have to understand, and if you don't know what we actually depend on other countries for and what percentage we depend, it will give you definitely a different perspective of why it's impossible. Like 43% of our fruits and vegetables come from Mexico. Anywhere between 63 to 78% of our energy comes from Canada. 30% of our lumber to 40% of our lumber comes from Canada. A large portion of our steel comes from Canada. You're looking at our 1 and 2 partners in trade are Canada and Mexico that we both share a border to, and then that we have no means to even or ability to cover any infrastructure or any manufacturing jobs that would increase from those two alone. And I know that a lot of people like Brian, and we're just going to do like a little fun fact, is that everybody likes to point out China and that China has abused this and China has abused that, and what impact and how devastating it could be if the United States keeps attacking China as far as their stock market, which is true. But just a little fun fact for everybody is that out of the $4.3 trillion of exports that China has, the United States is $443 million of that, or $1 billion of that. 443 billion out of 4.3 trillion. So here's what I would just like to caution people is even just the facts that I gave you and how it's mathematically impossible. If we continue to isolate ourselves, and let's just say this goes south, let's hope it doesn't, because nobody really wants the country to fail so bad that it's going to put people out of jobs, no matter who's in office, whatever political party or political affiliation is there. We do not want the country to fail. But here is what is setting up is if you got countries like China, South Korea, and Japan that are now in talks of trade agreements or making new trade agreements. You got Canada and Europe that are negotiating new trade agreements, and you got Mexico, Brazil, and China that are now talking new trading agreements. This puts the United States in a spot that we haven't been, since I've ever been alive, and that's isolating ourselves from the global market.